Hello, can you hear me? Yeah? All right, let's give it a shot then. Okay, so hi. I am Joyelle McSweeney, and I am a poet, and I am a professor of English, and I am the chair of the Department of English, and it is my... A little decorum, please. And it is such a joy that we can all be together here to welcome Cecilia Vicuña to campus. This is really wonderful. So thank you for being here, the event of the season, for sure. I'm going to give you a little introduction to the event. Johannes Janssen, who's the director of creative writing, will stand up and give you a small introduction to Cecilia Vicuña herself, the artist, and then Cecilia Vicuña will take the stage, and then we'll all be part of the event. So here we go. Here's my part. So last week, I caught a cold, and as I slept it off, I had one of those dreams only cough syrup, dextromethorphan, can deliver. It was early morning, and children were gathering into the streets for a children's parade. They were wearing little sky blue and white striped football jerseys, like the Argentinian national team. And as they walked, they sang a sweet song as an anthem. Things are not what they seem. I'm coming into my dream, and it is breaking the world apart. When I woke up, I realized that this was a dream about seeds that break open to share information, to renew and to continue the work of making the world. And then I realized it was a dream about Cecilia Vicuña. Her work of utter possibility, cellular and cosmic, extemporaneous and omnichronic, Andean and Blakean, a work that remembers that the infinitesimal is the root to the infinite, and that carries in its weaving a song of breaking, joining, breaking down, joining, and joining again. This is a technique of beauty, magic, and survival. It is available all because we are already in it. We are already making it. We are already singing it. We are already dreaming it. And this is because the cliche is right. This is the web of life. But this work is not otherworldly, because all its ingredients are here, including ourselves, including nothing, not, absence, including death. It is not otherworldly unless this world contains the other that we long for, contains all possible worlds. To reverse the reverse was the work, she has said. Her work is political in aim, magical in method, and beautiful by intention. Quote, to recomfort the soul and give strength, to reverse, to recomfort, to redress, to reframe, to renew. The most important particle of language here is re. Re is the matter by which we move backwards, undo it, and do it again. Re, to laugh. Reeve the bank and river the river, rev the dream, to re-arrive laughing on the shore of dreams. Tonight, we welcome Cecilia Vicuña to Notre Dame, and we are so lucky to be the present spot of her earthly and cosmic itinerary. Tonight, Vicuña will present the fourth Ernest Sandeen Memorial Reading, a series meant to be biennial, but deranged like a planet in its path by COVID. The reading series had its inception in 2014 with a reading by Pulitzer Prize winner and renowned poet of the Midwest working class, Philip Levine. Next came a reading by Claudia Rankine in 2017, and then Anne Carson, and tonight at long last, the poet and artist, Cecilia Vicuña. In a moment, creative writing director Johannes Janssen will give a brief introduction to Vicuña's life and work, but I will take this moment to remember Ernest Sandeen, in whose memory this series is made. He was an English professor here at Notre Dame, he was chair of English, and he was a poet. His students remembered him for the way he modeled deep absorption in the text they read, and how that deep absorption in reading in turn became both root and armature, proposing the largest possible questions of existence. While in many ways completely unlike our guest tonight, Sandeen was a World War II veteran, very tall, buzz cut. He built the English department into an exemplar of faculty governance of their own affairs, our own affairs. So it is he that created the committee structure that allowed us to work collaboratively to configure and revise undergraduate and graduate curriculum, to design and apply standards of promotion and tenure drawn from our own disciplinary expertise. And then other departments apparently modeled this. A legend. But Sandeen was, like Vicuña, first of all, a poet, and like her, a conduit between the infinitesimal and the infinite through the media of reading, writing, compassion, and human attention. These are the profound as well as the profoundly practical gifts of both Cecilia Vicuña and Ernest Sandeen, and it is a pleasure to remember, to bring these names together here tonight. And Vicuña's reading also marks the first of the Ecotone series of events, a thematic interdisciplinary series that serves as a meeting place for creative practitioners who work in multiple mediums to advance more rooted and sustainable relationships between humans and our environments. This series is a project of the Arts Initiative here at Notre Dame, Arts ND, headed by Director Michael Schreffler and Managing Director Rebecca Struck, who is here tonight, and who have also been instrumental in supporting Vicuña's visit. And we're so pleased about this initiative and to work with them, and we're so pleased that the university affirms that the arts are central to Notre Dame's vision of itself for the future. As the home for writers and readers at Notre Dame, we in the English department are thrilled to welcome you to our home and to partner in building a robust home for the arts at Notre Dame. As Vicuña's work shows, art is the most robust technology, and the most portable technology is dream. And finally, before I actually give this mic away and hand it to Johannes Jansen, please allow me to thank the partners who made this evening possible. The Ernest Sandeen Memorial Fund, with special thanks to Eric Sandeen and Evangeline Sandeen, the Creative Writing Program, the Department of English, the College of Arts and Letters, the Arts Initiative, the Institute for Social Concerns, the Latin American Critical Cultures Studies Working Group of the Kellogg Institute for International Studies, the Department of Romance, Languages, and Literatures, the Department of Art History and Design, Letras Latinas, the Institute for Latino Studies, the Program in Gender Studies. Thank you to Ricky Herbst, Director of the Browning Cinema, who arranged a showing of Vicuña's film Con Con last week in advance of her visit, to Creative Writing Program Manager, Paul Cunningham, for planning and facilitating this entire event. To the bookstore staff upstairs who have the books, to the Geddes Hall facility staff and the catering staff for making it possible for us to come together tonight. And now I welcome to the floor Creative Writing Director Johannes Jansen. Come on up.
Hello, great to see you all here. I first want to say that Cecilia is going to read for about 30 minutes, and then we have some time for Q&A. So if you have questions popping in your head while she's performing, make sure you take note of it or something. I'm just going to give it just a little brief background to Cecilia's life, really. And you know, like 3 or 4 minutes is not enough time to do anybody justice, but least of all, somebody who has written so much in so many different ways and approached art and poetry in so many different ways. I will just say a few things maybe to set the stage for her. Cecilia Vicuña was born in Santiago de Chile in 1948, and she is deeply shaped by a lot of the traditions and cultural dynamics of that region, though in other ways maybe also shaped by the reverse of not being there. One example might be her use of the quipo knots that are traditional indigenous technology of communication. These knots are a through line through Cecilia's work, also in her interest in using fiber arts and ropes and all kinds of fabric. But on the other hand, she was has also lived a very international life. Her first book, Saburami, was written in London in the early 70s, partly in response to the US-backed coup in Chile that caused her to live away from her home for many years. It's an amazing book, and I really recommend people check it out. It was republished maybe 10 years ago. And it's a book that begins maybe with a collection of objects, what she calls precariouses. So there's a collection of strange objects in the book, but it's also deeply aware of the pressures of the Allende, President Allende's reign back in Chile, and the threats of this right-wing coup that eventually overtakes the democracy. Another through line you can see from those books is this interest in objects and ephemeral things, as well as a strong, staunch sense of justice, and the idea that the art, even if it's about maybe random objects from the street, can actually are deeply informed by politics. And in the 50 years since she made that book, she has made so much different art, written so many different kinds of poems as songs, poems in different languages, poems that are lectures or ritual or performances that weave the audience to the performer, artworks made on the beach with beach objects. I could go on and on. Such multiplicity of approaches, such a rich career. Some books I could mention if you're interested is Spit Temple from Ugly Duckling Press, that was edited by Rosa Alcala. That's from about 10 years ago. The New and Selected Poems from Kelsey Street Press, and the recent The Deer book, translated by Daniel Brzezinski. And for those of you who may be in Ireland next month or in November, the Dublin Museum of Modern Art is going to host a big show of her artworks called Reverse Migrations, a poetics journey. And I like the title of there because it gets at some of these contradictions that her work explores. It's reverse migrations, but also the fact that the movement, the migrations are constantly taking place in her work. And maybe for me, most of all, that this dynamic kind of movement is about poetry. And I look at poetry that is always surprising to me and inspiring, and I really look forward to being surprised by her tonight. Please welcome Cecilia Vicuña.
As I was preparing to come here, I read that words will disappear. A spatial word, that name. Did you hear that cry? The cry came when I was going to say words that name living things. And instead of the word living things, I said my turn. As if the time living things. I sometimes begin by saying welcome to the present moment. All around you is alive. Lo precario es lo que se obtiene por oración. Inseguro, apurado, escaso. Lo precario es lo que desaparece. I was a young girl, almost naked, when I first understood what that meant. I was in the beach in Chile. It was cold as hell. And the wind came around my waist. And I turned around. What is the wind doing with my waist? The waist and the wind had something to do with the shot. The one caressing the shot. You see that fucking face? So then the same fool, because he's in awe, or she is in awe of what she has seen. What she has seen is what we call the divinity of my lips. And in front of that, we disappear with a song, we're laughing, we're even a speck of that. Just an illusion of what would have, with that being that is all that is. Therefore, I call that art, that rush that I have become, the rush of the garden, I call that the guy. And only 20, 30 years later, I learned that the root of the word the guy, what is insecure, what is fragile, what is disappearing, that is not the guy. That is us. I never follow what's written here. See? It's crazy foolish. But that's the way it's better. But I also have this hidden fat book. So, we shall find one. I think I can find it. Yeah. It's so the poem I will read you refers to something that happened maybe 50 years after that story. That story I was telling you, I lived in the year 66, in January of 1966. And I always tell that story. I have probably told it perhaps 50 times or more. But it's never the same. Because it's always the same. So how can that be? You see, here is the young girl in her bridge, but this time I'm dressed. I'm not going to the story. You know, the Catholic Church prohibited our bikinis because bikinis were outrageously small. So now is the old Cecilia. And the old Cecilia finds herself stranded perhaps in the US. I was invited to give a poetry in 1980. And I came just to be for a few days. I'm still there. So there's something about New York has a blue. It's attached to your feet.
In the back, we can't hear you anything.
You can't hear me?
No.
Not at all.
You haven't heard any of the things I said?
No.
Is that true? Why didn't you say before? Shall I start over? No. So truly you didn't hear anything?
Really?
No. Ah. Okay. You didn't miss a thing. Because I was telling a made-up story. That I lived, but for you it's made up. Because you didn't mean it, you see. So, what is made up and what is true is the question that we need to know. Perhaps I should hold this in my hand. You see, these little mics are betrayers. Oh. So that's the way it should sound? Did someone hear the story I was telling? Some. So your mission in the future, meaning in a few minutes, you can tell it in your own way. So this is the story of distortion that makes language true. Because in oral culture, something mysterious happens, that all the distortions end up becoming true. And everybody participates in the creation of these transformations that self-select to create a deeper truth, like Jojo was saying, that is us, that is all of us. And that is very important to know when we are hit by fake news. No matter how much disinformation, how much fakeness, the universe says, the scientist, the quantum scientist, finds the way to sort of collar, how you say that in English, put through the strainer of our feelings, our heart vibration, to determine in the end what will really become the truth after all. So this is the point where I sort of feel or think feel the meaning of what is it that I ended up doing in New York with my poetry, where the poems began to disappear in front of my eyes, like when I am in front of you. I somehow can see that these are words, but their meaning begins to dissolve, very much like I dissolved in the moment I described to you. So I call my poems that happen in the moment when we are together, you, all of you, and a little person like me here. I call it quasi in Latin, quasar in English, which comes from the Latin, which means quasi, almost. Something that is not yet anything, but it is the most powerful force in the galaxy, because all potential is contained in that which is not yet. If we can remember that in the moment when we're breathing, when we're being born in the moment, life changes its quality. La luz de un sonido, o el sonido de una luz, light of sound, sound of light. Era su no ser nada, su not yet, lo que me atraía. It's not yet being, it's no ser nada, it's what attracted me. En ese estado me mantenía buscando una forma antes de la forma. Being almost a border and about to happen kept me there, looking for a form before the form. La forma no nacía de una idea, era la idea desvaneciéndose. Form was not born from an idea, it was an idea vanishing. Al nacer, el no la comprendía y aliviaba, dejándola ser en su deshacer. At its birth, the no understood and soothes it, allowing it to be in its undoing. Un poema buscando su ser, el quasar no sabe buscar sino el sueño del soñar. A poem looking for its being, the quasar can only search for the sleep of dreams. Even though these translations are done by a master translator, poet herself, Rosa Alcalá. The translations because a poema se escabulle. How could you say that in English? It's like it goes out and disappears when you're trying to even look at it. So then I decided I could speak to you about El Silencio. I was reading that certain words in most Western languages are disappearing from the language. All words connecting with living things, as I was saying when you were not hearing. It is that as a species disappear, our language to name them disappears. But feeling that, like 25 years ago, I made a little book which was called Libro de Frases en Extinción, the book of phrases going extinct. And you opened the book and there was no words in it. So if you look at the word species, you look it up in the dictionary and it says a fundamental category ranking after its genus consisting of organisms capable of interbreeding. That's what they like to do. It comes from the Latin species, which means seeing, which means appearance, likeness, kind, which comes from specere, to look at, from the older root spec, to observe. And all this list of words, a specimen, a spectacle, aspect, auspice, respect, all come from this spec. Even the aerospects, the ancient Roman name for the diviner, he who sees, of course it was most likely she who sees. Despicare, to despise is not to see. How many of us here in this room are so familiar with that being in peaceful, either because you're dark, or because you're a woman, or you're a foreigner, or what you ever are, because you're white, you're fat, you're thin. You can always disappear. In Greek, a speck becomes a scopus, one who watches the scope or the horoscope. In the Odyssey, Homer, or what we dream Homer may have been, as the author says, speak memory. And memory is one of the many things, one of the species that is disappearing, is our own ability to remember. Memory in Latin, in Greek, was mnemosine, and the word muse. The word muse comes from the daughters of memory. You erase memory, you erase memory, and what is going to become of the daughters of memory? The muse, the music, the music. What is going to become of that? I have to go back to the fact book now. This book was borrowed, so that's why I don't know where things are. In this book, there is something called La secuencia del agua, the water sequence. I wrote this in the 80s when it was becoming apparent that an ancient Andean prophecy was becoming true. And the prophecy said that the vicuñas, the animal that lives in the altitudes, at the place where the glaciers are melting and the springs are born, that they were the guardians of the water, and that if these animals disappeared, water would disappear. So the extinction of these species that are the guardians of the water foretells the disappearance of water. And Chile, the Andean nation that has most glaciers, is getting drier and drier by the minute as water, sweet water, agua dulce, disappears along with the glaciers. So these poems, this sequence, when it was published in Santiago, there was only one review of 4 lines. It said, "What a stupid little book." Completely inconsequential. It has absolutely no meaning. Isn't that something? That the disappearance of water could have no meaning. Chile, unfortunately, is still of the same mind. The disappearance of water, no meaning. So that, ¿sí? Estoy de acuerdo. Ok. Una es el agua y su misma sed. Water and its thirst are one. Se acabará la fuente redonda, la propia silencio, la Silvia clave se acabará, donde será la neblina, la bruma bebe que cante. ¿Dónde se irá? Fresco, fresco al sostén de la tierra. Los racimos de llanto, los corazones apagados sin neblina. The round spring, its own silence, the sylvan key will end. It will all end. Where will the fog go? The life-giving mist. Where will it go? Where it will go? Cool, fresh, the earth, sustenance, the dear field branches, our hearts extinguished when the fog is gone. For your sake, I'm skipping, so that we can come to a different moment in a little while. silencio del oído. No oímos el silencio de las ballenas, el silencio de los pájaros, el silencio de los insectos. No oímos nuestro propio silencio. Hemos matado el silencio y el oído. Hemos matado el silencio y el oído. Hemos matado el silencio y el oído. The silencing of the ear. We don't hear the silence of the whales. The whales have stopped singing. We don't hear their silence. We don't hear the silence of the birds. The silence of the insect. We don't hear our own silence. We have killed the silence on the ear. We have killed the silence on the ear. But it seems scientists are discovering a different possibility. A few days ago, I read something so incredible because it's completely credible, which is that if you have studied what is inside the leaf and what is the heart of photosynthesis, if you look at the other fat book, which I may or may not read, that one, it's all a journey inside. Why did the ancient cultures of Siberia, where my ancestors that arrived all the way walking into the north of Chile, where they live, having come from the African continent, all these ancient peoples in Africa, in Asia, in the Americas, see the deer as the flower and see flower as the language. So as the deer are extinguished as the flower and the deer and language are extinguishing, what are they really talking about? And in my dreams, I felt that these had to do with what's inside, not the flower, but what causes the flower to be, which is a process that we call photosynthesis, which means the composition of the light. Think of that concept, that the light is composed inside the leaf. So I went into a journey inside the leaf, and I spent years considering what was happening inside the leaf, and the result is that fat one there. And so after I had finished this book, I read this. So this is not translated yet, even though it's not true, because I think I wrote it first in English, but I have lost that. So I will have to translate this one, which I found today. It's called La sangre de las plantas. Las bacterias cantan y la vida empieza. The bacteria sing and life begins. La hoja abre su boca, el estómago, un labio, inhala el sonido y emite luz. The leaf opens its mouth, its stoma, a lip that inhales sound and emits life. La luz exhala el aire del sonido. This light is exhaling the life of air, the life of sound. Es el canto de los pájaros el que abre la boca de la hoja y ella exhala el aire del sonido. It is the bird singing that causes the leaf to open up, to eat the light that will become the oxygen we breathe. Think of that metamorphosis of light into sound, into song, into breath. El amor de la luz y el sonido de la hoja y el canto. They are all making love. It doesn't say here that at all, but it says la música del amor de la hoja y el canto they live. Here's you, la sangre de las plantas es el alma de la tierra. The blood of plants is the soul of the earth. La hoja exhala y nosotros respiramos. The leaf, it exhales. Now we breathe. El respiro de la luz en el sonido del que depende la vida. The breath of light in sound of which love, life depends on. If someone ever hears this recording and looks at this sheet of paper, we'll see. Wasn't there. And so, to end, since I was invoking Homer, I have been lately writing of ancient prophecies that look like what we're going through right now. I don't know why I do that. It must be for some reason yet to be known. And so, this is the story of one fragment of the Odyssey translated by Stanley Lombardo. And it says, "Speak, memory, of the coming hero, the wanderer blown, of course, time and again. After he plundered Troy's sacred heights, speak of all the cities he saw, the suffering deep in his heart at sea, as he struggled to survive and bring his men home, but could not save them, hard as he tried. The fools destroyed by their own recklessness. The fools destroyed by their own recklessness." Then, if that doesn't sound exactly like us. Gracias, amigos.
Anyone have questions? Anyone want to ask Cecilia? Super convincing.
Well, if you don't ask any questions, I will ask you questions. Yes, there is a question there.
Hi, Cecilia. Thank you for being here today. I was wondering, do you consider yourself more as a performance artist or as a poet? How would you kind of define yourself as far as those two categories?
Well, neither. Because, you know, those definitions are so, is it flimsy? Or is it, you know, weak? Or it's passing? In truth, poets have been performing for thousands and thousands of years. So I believe that the act of thinking, the act of speaking to one another, is truly a form of performance. So in that sense, yes, I am a performer, and so I am. So are all of us. I wrote long ago a phrase that I intended to read. Actually, it's showing up here. Look, in Spanish we say it's the bad intention of the page. It says this. I have to put my glasses or I can perhaps see. No. I wrote this probably 20 years ago, but it says, "The true performance is that of our species on Earth, the way we cause suffering to others, the way we warm the atmosphere or cause other species to disappear. So, in that sense, I'm also a performer, because it seems that our culture has caused it, so that every activity that we do causes some harm instead of some benefit to ourselves, to others, you know. So to change course, and that's written below here, it says something that I happen to have read today as words coming from the Dalai Lama. This one writing here is not the Dalai Lama, but it's a word that we hear more and more, thank God, coming from many voices. It says, to change course, we must recognize our collective responsibility to create a different cultural memory of who we are and what we're living for the next generations. There's a Quechua word that the Quechua people picked up from Spanish, distorted and transformed into a new expression. This word is reparana, and what they have created is from the word reparar in Spanish, which has a double meaning: reparar a broken bike, to repair a broken bike, for example. But reparar en ti means to take notice of how beautiful you are. So from that, I create the concept. Did I create it? No. I noticed the concept that is floating in this sense, that to repair injustice or harm is possible just by becoming aware. If we could become aware that our awareness is an act of repair, that's the beginning. If we could just practice that, feel what we feel, think what we're really thinking, I think we could be freed from this doom that is sort of an idea.
Thank you, Cecilia. We're great to have all you here. We're going to have a reception